Red and blue in every sight. Robert CP on the mic. Post-game show about to strike. There's a roaring, feel the cheer. Queens of York, the atmosphere. Hype the crowd that never tame. Mets post-game show brings the flame.
Ooh.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Mets postgame show right here on the channel and on X. And of course, we are talking about a debacle, embarrassment performance from our New York Mets in another postgame show, losing 3 out of 4 against the goddamn Miami Marlins. They are just a thorn in our sides, no matter what. Let's talk about it. All right, Chris, how you doing, buddy?
First series win for the Marlins at Citi Field in 5 years, if I'm not mistaken, is what the broadcast said. This was a despicable performance, an absolutely despicable performance. And we got to start having real conversations about Kodai Senga. We have to start that dialogue right now because this is just inexcusable. Tomorrow will be September 1st. You'll be playing meaningful baseball all month long. And as Carlos Mendoza has stated in maybe the past week and a half, this rotation is going to be evaluated turn by turn. Now, whether they actually make a move for one of these guys going to the bullpen or not is anybody's guess. But in the next, let's say, 7.5 hours, David Stearns has a lot of decisions to make. He doesn't get the rest of the day off, unfortunately for him, with the holiday tomorrow. He doesn't, because he's got to make real roster decisions upcoming on both sides of the ball. You talk about low energy, you talk about not showing up. The past 2 games, I'm talking about the start of the games, especially the first 4 innings, it seems like the Mets have taken off, forgetting that there's a baseball game in those first couple of innings. Kodai Senga, what's funny and what's bad enough is that his fastball actually looked okay today. Like, his fastball actually looked okay today, and he still got shelled. This is a guy that we're talking about a guy that has potentially lost it at this point and could never find it again in 2025. Like, we're getting to that point with Kodai Senga. And I know that there's going to be fans out there that are still going to continue this. Oh, Senga's an ace. How quickly they must have forgotten. And they'll start saying that as soon as Kodai Senga turns in a respectable 5 innings, whether it's the next go round or the go round after that. But that won't move me because I need to see a lot more from Kodai Senga to make up for the fact of what he's done the past couple of months. And the funniest thing of this game is that, you know, you're listening to us in the post-game stream right here and the rant that is upcoming, because if you think that it's bad from me, wait until you hear Rob speak, because I'm sure he's got a lot of content for you all in this post-game stream. But Ron, Gary, these guys that are usually professional, they still are professional, right? They didn't say anything outlandish today in the booth. But even they were making it very well known that this pitching is abysmal and has been abysmal. They said it in a little bit of a classier way than probably we will say on this post game, but these are broadcasters that are just telling you that this pitching is not it. And the red flags just continue to show themselves with this rotation, and it's bad. It's bad.
Zach, hi, buddy.
Oh God, what's up? That was rough. That was rough. I mean, I was thinking about it today. Thursday was frustrating. Yesterday, you just kind of throw your hands up there and you're just like, what can you do? You know, the pitching, David Peterson, who's been solid all year, didn't have it. And the offense just couldn't get enough back. You know, they did their best. Today, I mean, Senga just from the jump didn't have it. The offense, which I can't kill because of how good they've been as of late, didn't really have it today. You want them to try to pull through, but they've over the past, over the whole month of August, there's been games where they've put up near double-digit runs, and the pitching wasn't able to hold leads and lost games for them. So when they show up like this, I can't kill them. It frustrates me because we've seen how good they've been all month, but something has to happen with Senga or Minaya. I have more faith in Minaya, but Senga, I don't necessarily trust him out of the bullpen. It's such a weird situation. The Mets have until 11:59 tonight to make a call for Brandon Stroh to get him on this roster so that he will be eligible for the postseason. That has to happen. It has to happen. Brandon Waddell just threw how many pitches? He threw, the majority of the end of that game. I guess it ended up being 4 1/3, if I'm not mistaken, 4 1/3 innings today. So he's not going to be available probably for another 4 days. So he will get sent down. The rosters expand tomorrow. You can easily call up a Pintaro or someone to take that spot, but something has to be done for this pitching staff, because we cannot keep throwing out what is essentially 2 dead spots. I have faith that Minaya can get through 3, maybe 4 innings without blowing up, but anything past that, it's showing that the injury is taking hold and not allowing him to go deep into games. Senga, I have zero faith in at this point. If you have to consider him not even being on the playoff roster if the season was to end today. Like, how could you trust this guy? Like Minaya, if I was to throw him out there for 6 outs, maybe 9 outs, I have full faith he will get those outs.
Yeah.
I have full faith in him. My faith in Minaya stems from the fact that he can't go deep. Senga, you don't know what you're going to get. You don't. And I know, Chris, you mentioned that his fastball was good. His fastball was good, yeah, but he keeps throwing the damn sweeper. This is something that has like an expected slugging percentage of 700 this year. It's been the worst pitch over his career in the major leagues, and he continues to throw it as one of his out pitches. Scrap it. It is a terrible pitch. He cannot throw it. He constantly hangs it over the middle of plates, and we see what happens. He gets shelled. So, disgusting performance. Get it together for tomorrow, but that was rough.
Well, there is. I'm going to bring up some positive, because there is a positive. There's going to be a positive note here. Sandy Alcantara pitched 7 innings. The only difference is he's pitching with a Marlins uniform on. That's who I wanted. I don't give a shit who you had to give up. I don't care. You would have had him at least 2 weeks before McLean or Tong, and God forbid if Sprode actually comes up here. So, congratulations to Sandy Alcantara. That was a great performance with a Marlins uniform on. Marlins are not really doing much at all. But, hey, Sandy Alcantara would look nice in a Mets uniform. Unfortunately, Stearns is afraid to make any moves, and we'll continue to talk about those any moves real quick in just a second. But I just wanted to bring up, I was just looking at a couple of numbers here. So in the month of August, obviously the Mets, what are they, 11-18, 11-17 in the month of August? The Mets pitching is disgusting in this month of August. David Peterson, who everybody wants to start game 1 of a postseason, 6.68 ERA, pretty good. Sean Manaea, 7.13 ERA. That's on number 2. Clay Holmes, 4.32. Hey, probably the best pitcher in this rotation. Let's leave Nolan McLean out of it, because that's not fair to him. Jonah Tong, not fair to him. Oh, Kodai Senga, can't wait for talk about him. 6.18 ERA in the month of August. Nolan McLean, 0.89. Jonah Tong, 1.80. And we don't even have to bring up McGill's numbers, because what's the point? That's the month of August for New York Mets pitching, right? When you lose, the Mets have lost 16 games this year when they score at least 4 runs or more. That's how many games they lost when they score 4 or more runs. That's a problem within itself. Yet you're pitching that, again, Nolan McLean's your game 1 starter. And that might sound great to everybody. That doesn't excite me. I'm sorry. I said it before. I'll say it again. I don't care how good these guys are in the regular season. It's a whole different ballgame, right? Could it be shades of DeGrom and Harvey in the postseason in 2015? Absolutely. And would I be cheering the hell out of them? Sure. But this has been the problem from jump. I talked about it in March. I talked about it in April, May, June, July, and now we're at the end of August going into September. These 2 guys, Nolan McLean and Jonah Tong, can only do so much. And poor Brandon Sproat is going to be the next one on the chopping block. and put his feet to the fire because Stearns is fucking incompetent. I'm sorry. Right? All that trust that we were talking about possibly at the deadline for David Stearns, and nobody said he had a bad deadline because the bullpen arms were pretty damn good. But at the same time, there was something very much needed in this rotation. A proven guy that can do it. You didn't want to overpay. That's problem number one. Because it's okay for nobody else to do it, but the Mets had to follow suit. All right, fine. You wait until 2 weeks after the trade deadline to bring up one of your top pitching prospects in Nolan McLean. But hey, we got a draft pick. I know we can't wait until the draft for next year. Are we excited about that, guys? Because we're going to be talking about next year the way this team is playing. I'm sorry to say. We are leading towards a September where now we're going on a 10-game road trip against the Tigers, who are one of the best teams in baseball. We're going to miss Scooble, but I mean, what does that really mean? I mean, the Mets find a ways to lose in these games. You got the Reds, who are right up our butts right now. I know it's only 4 games right now, but it could be closer. It could be closer. And then we got the Phillies for 4. That's our 10-game road trip starting the month of September. They better play well because we can be talking about the middle of September hanging on for dear life. Because if this pitching isn't going to figure it out, at least some of them, we're going to have a very, very quick offseason. Like, we're going to have some season preview. We're going to have a season recap very quickly in October because it's an outrageous situation the Mets put themselves in. David Stearns, hey, listen, you want the credit last year? You're getting all the blame this year. It's very simple. It is very simple. Now, do the players have to perform? Absolutely. But I've been complaining about Kodai Senga for years. I just don't like him. I don't think he's consistent or trusted enough to consider him a top 2 pitcher. He's a guy that needs 6 days off. And how's that going to work in the playoffs, by the way? 6 days off almost every time. He pitched on back-to-back 2 days regular rest, and he pitched just as bad as he getting 6 days off. So it really doesn't matter. He sucks. Sean Manaea, I talked about this elbow. I talked about the mechanics. I think he is hurt. I think this guy is going to have surgery at the end of the year with that elbow to remove loose body. But like, I don't even if it's something worse, but it's just an overall issue that a lot of people, and I'm not going to speak for you guys because you have your own opinions, but there was a lot of people on social media that says, oh, it's like a deadline acquisition getting Sean Manaea back. How? Did anybody expect him to pitch as well as he did last year? Even if he was healthy, I don't think anybody would have thought that. Now we're expecting him to do it 3 months after the fact, coming back from injury with an oblique and loose bodies in his elbow. Come on, guys. Like, we got to stop acting like everything's okay. Like, every day, people in the comments, people on social media continue to say, we'll be okay. We'll be okay. If the Mets are lucky that teams behind them are not very good. Because if that's the case, if they were, we'd be talking about missing the playoffs. And thank God the Reds aren't that good. And again, they can still catch us, just so everybody remembers that. 25 games ago, a lot can happen. But overall, the Mets pitching better figure it out because you can't rely on Nolan McLean and Jonah Tong to always be good. They might have a bump in the road down these last couple of starts. That's a possibility. They might not be great. And we need them to be great because the veterans of this rotation is embarrassing themselves. I gave you the ERAs. I'll give it quickly again. 6.68 ERA for David Peterson in August. 6.18 for Senga. Clay Holmes, 4.32. Not terrible. And you got Sean Manaea with 7.13. Like, that is the problem. And this is what we're going into September with the same Manaea's pitching. I'm sorry.
No. Just the whole thing with David Peterson, a lot of that was ballooned by yesterday. So if you take that out, I think it's in the mid 3s. So I think that a lot of that comes from one start, for David Peterson, because it was 8 runs in 2 innings. So I mean, it's not great, but
he hasn't been very good in August though. Like, he looked like he hit a wall. To be honest with you,
overall, he had 2 numbers. his overall second half numbers are in the fours. I'm pretty sure if I saw from Anthony DeComo correctly yesterday.
And that's fine. But when you consider in a guy that people were talking about being your number one, the way he's pitched in the first half, that's a serious problem. And again, this is the first time in his career he's pitching well over probably 150, 160 innings. So 2 years in a row, back-to-back 170 inning seasons. He's never done that in his career. So we don't even know if he can continue to pitch well. He might be able to be healthy and on the mound, but pitch well. He might be gassed. And there's not enough conversation about that, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, do I think David Peterson can figure it out? We hope so. But I mean, we're in trouble. I don't think, I really think we are. I know, Chris, you were very confident, and you said, take those receipts about making the playoffs. They're making it very interesting. They're not making it easy for themselves at all. And by any means, if you're going to try to save innings from some of these guys, considering that they're already gassed, most of these guys, now that you kind of put yourself in a position where it's not very easy in the month of September, you have to push these guys. And there's no signs that they're going to do anything pushing these guys.
Well, I mean, I'll still keep true to my word. I still do think this mess no matter what, no matter how you shake it. But I mean, going into the Red Series later on this week, well, I mean, we'll preview and recap and do post games for that series. That is an ever so crucial series for the New York Mets to win. They have to win that series. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, because not only for the standings, it has standings implications, that has tiebreaker implications as well, just in case things get interesting. By the way, David Peterson first half was pitching to a 3.06 ERA, second half 5.02 ERA. So the 8 runs yesterday did skyrocket that a little bit, but if I'm not mistaken, he was still a little bit over 4 going into yesterday's start. He has just not been consistent enough. And the problem, and I said it on the post-game show yesterday, Zach, is that the problem with David Peterson ever living up to the expectations of being an ace is that he doesn't have, he's not a strikeout predominant pitcher. He pitches to a lot of contact, and that's fine. You can be a really good pitcher by doing that. But, you generally speaking, aces go out there and they have that premier put away pitch, and they have it often. That's why I think Nolan McLean, I know it's very early, but he can live up. He could be down this stretch of September, the Mets number 1 going into the playoffs as well if they make it. That's insane to say. But I think the bottom line here is that it's simple. David Stearns, there's no chance in David Stearns' right mind at this point, given what he has seen the last 2 days, that he can afford Philly sign Walker Buehler. Wow. Okay.
Yes. At least somebody's working in the GM.
I don't know if we want Walker Buehler, so he can go to the Phillies. The Phillies can have him.
I don't know about that.
Listen, they have to. But the thing is that you have to call up Brandon Sproat.
No. So that was incorrect. Joe DeMayo did tweet 10 minutes ago, because people are saying that why is he not here? He can't be on the playoff roster. You have to be in the organization by September 1st. So I'm seeing conflicting.
You have to be on the 40-man, and Sproat's not on the 40-man just yet.
Joe DeMayo specifically says roster, not 40-man. Yeah, I'll send it to you guys. Hold on.
On the roster, when did
that's why? Yeah, apparently. So I don't know. It gets confusing. Yeah,
it does.
12 minutes ago, the rule for playoff roster eligibility is being in the organization prior to September 1st, not the 40.
So the 28 or the 26 man or whatever, the 28.
He just as long as he's on in the organization, he can be called up just for the playoffs, supposedly.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you're talking about even in the minor league farm system, that counts as in the organization, so he's eligible.
I believe so, yes, at least there. But I've seen conflict. I've seen a ton of different reports. But Joe DeMayo is around baseball, so he's I would think he's pretty keyed into it.
Agree.
Well, it doesn't matter. Who cares?
No, he
call
should be
this
up.
kid up. You just call this kid up. All right, listen. This is what I looked up from Google. I mean, it's a simple Google search. To be eligible for the postseason roster, a player must have been with the organization on August 31st and not placed. So, okay, so if you're in the organization, I'm assuming anywhere in the organization.
It's still very broad.
Oh, okay,
though.
no. So a player must have been a member of the team's organization, either on the active roster or on the 40-man roster
That's
or
what I'm
on
saying.
the injured list as of midnight. This is what it's saying
So
right
yeah,
here.
then
This is
Sproat's got to get on the 40-man before you even think about. I mean, they could do that quickly. They could do that right now.
There's so
It's not-
many guys that can be DFA: Jonathan
Yeah.
Pintaro,
So many.
Waddell, Luis Castillo,
Nick
or Jose Castillo, not
Madrigal.
Luis Castillo, Nick
Well, Nick
Madrigal. Well, Nick
Madrigal's
Madrigal's
on.
40, 60 IL.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
okay,
there's
so-
plenty of options for Sproat to get here. The
Sure.
one thing I do want to say though, Rob, what you were saying about just regards to the playoffs, I wholeheartedly believe if the Mets get there, they're gonna make some waves. I mean, if they don't just get blown out of a wild card game, they're gonna make some waves because their team just plays to the playoffs so well. If you take guys like McLean, Peterson, and let's say Holmes as your top three starters, you can easily insert Minaya in the bullpen, who could be a bulk guy 3 times in that series, who
Sure.
can handle 2-3 innings an outing, and I think you're comfortable with that. I
Sure,
think
sure.
a lot of what your problems like with who's on the roster really just stem from Senga. I mean, Peterson obviously has been inconsistent. Clay Holmes has also been somewhat inconsistent. He's been consistently solid through 5, and when he tries to push it through 5, it kind of gets a little bit sloppy. That's the problem with him. But I think this team, the influx of youth is going to help. I really do. I think Senga is someone who's going to be falling out of favor fairly shortly.
Yeah, but you know what though? Like, we can talk about McLean all we want. We have no idea how he's going to perform in the postseason. Like, look, he has the demeanor, he has the confidence, but let's not act like he's just going to go up there and throw great. And David Peterson came out of the bullpen last year. How do we know he's going to perform in the postseason as a starter? Coming out on a mound with all that adrenaline, all that energy in the beginning of a game. So that's a lot. And Clay Holmes, he's not a starter. He's a bullpen guy. He's been good this year, and he deserves a lot of credit. But how do we know what Clay Holmes is going to look like? Even Jonah Tong, all these 4 guys, there's a ton of question marks. McLean and Tong look great, and we hope they have great careers with the New York Mets. But there's nothing here that says, oh, well, I feel confident in this guy going in game 1, 2, 3 of a wild card series. I just don't. Now, you can shorten the game up with Minaya in the bullpen, with Senga coming out of the bullpen, whatever you want to do. You can shorten the game. And I have more confidence in the lineup because we've seen clutch guys in this lineup do it for other teams along with the Mets. So I think the lineup will show up. But we've seen the lineup show up for a month, and we're 7 games under 500 in August. So I think the pitching, we can say who we think is going to be good, but I just feel like there's a lot of too many question marks that is still concerning, where we can feel good about McLean and Tong, and even you can feel good about Clay Holmes, but it's going to be interesting to see what they're going to do, man.
You know what I see in the future happening here, just based off of what I'm seeing in the post game? I can see an IL stint for Senga in his future. That's what I can see. Carlos Mendoza said, quote unquote, we've got to get him right. I'm pretty sure we're going to have some discussion of what's next for him. Our job is to get him right. So Mendoza is already basically saying, like, there's going to be some discussion about a different situation for him, whatever that may be, bullpen, IL, etc. And Senga said, there are some parts of my body that aren't moving the way I want it to. That's a huge thing to say. It could it be an excuse? Sure. I mean, but we've seen phantom ILs before from this very Mets organization, and I don't know if that's I don't know how to assess that, but I can just see, like, I wouldn't be shocked. Is it likely? Maybe, maybe not. That's anyone's guess, but if that's what he's saying, I could maybe see an IL stint for him to start up September, and they could use that as a get right kind of situation for him to come back whenever he's ready.
Now, does he have any minor league options as he was signed and considered a rookie in 2023 or now?
I don't think so. Let me look.
I know a lot. There were a lot of talks around Roki Sasaki having them. I know Senga's a bit older, so I don't know if they apply.
Well, he does actually. He has 3, ironically enough.
They're not sending them now. They're not. No, that's their crown jewel of the organization.
I think they could.
They get all their jersey money from Japan. They can't do that. God forbid. I'm so you know what?
I don't think Steve Cohen cares about money, in all fairness.
Honestly, with Senga, if he was hurt the whole time, go on the IL. Like what are you doing pushing through it? Like what do you want to get some brownie points because you show you got a little bit of cojones because you went out there? Like you're not helping the team. Like we talked about this for years, Chris, with other players. Like when we thought he was hurt I think it was last year, if I'm not mistaken, when he was slumping. Like, hey, if you're hurt, go on the IL. You're not helping his team. The same thing with Senga. Don't tell me that, my body's not moving in the right direction. Like maybe you do have an injury. Then you shouldn't have been pitching. You should have never came back. Like I just don't understand the logic here. And I get it. I understand he's trying to figure it out. But it's sounding like excuses. It really is. I'm sorry.
I mean, at this point, with the way that he's performing, I think anything that he says will sound as like excuses. But what I'll say about this Bueller to the Phillies situation is that I knew that David Stearns wasn't going to go out there and get this guy, and that's fine because he has been putrid this season. I get it, but first of all, given what the Mets are doing right now, it hurts to just see him go to that division rival that is being proactive and making sure to ensure their pitching. But two, it's just like we talked about it, as well, Rob, that Bueller, he didn't really have that great of a season last season. And in the playoffs came around, they put him in a bullpen role and he shined for them. He closed some ball games for them when they needed him on their way to a championship. And so it's like, for me, it was either Bueller, you go and get Bueller if you don't want to bring Brandon Sproat up, or you bring Brandon Sproat's ass up here to the major leagues and have him, be a contributor to this team. Because, with all due respect, you got to call up impactful arms. Like you mentioned Jonathan Pintaro the other minute. I don't need to see Pintaro up here. Nobody wants to see Pintaro up here. He's like,
but he has options
because
that's what Stearns likes.
Dude, it's frustrating. I mean,
I'm joking, but I'm really not joking because that's what this is the problem with Stearns. Like, I feel like there's indecisiveness way too much within the organization. Again, we talked about this for months. These pitchers should have been up here. Fuck the draft picks, fuck the service time, fuck the rookie status. Who cares? If you tell me your goal is to win a World Series, then act like it. Don't play these goddamn games. Because if you happen to choke down the stretch and not make the playoffs, we're going to go back to June when we had Waddell pitching and Hageman and openers in June where these kids could have came up and possibly helped. So the goal isn't to win a World Series. I don't truly believe that is the number one goal because David Stearns talks about the future way too much. And I understand his job is to worry about the future. But when your team was 20-something games over 500 and they're falling apart, you have to do something better, and you got to make decisions quicker. You can't wait until we're falling apart. And I think that's the problem, Zach. I really think that the indecisiveness of bringing, again, Sproat started yesterday. Wasn't he in the bullpen a week and a half ago? Like that's
it didn't go too well. So,
but again, their indecisiveness or not knowing what the hell to do with certain guys is the major problem. It's a huge problem.
No, I get what you're saying. I think you got to try things out, because the rotation is a bit crowded. But given what Senga did today and what he's looked like as of late, I mean, I wholeheartedly believe that Sproat should replace him in the rotation, at least on a game-to-game basis. Sproat goes out and deals in his first start, they'll keep it. If he doesn't deal, he gets shelled. Maybe you consider moving Senga back into that role or something. But something needs to change because we can't have this. We can't have Senga who's out there inconsistently pitching every start and not even getting us through 5 and keeping us in it. Like at least Clay Holmes, when he gets through 5, more often than not, we're in the game. He's allowing 2-3 runs, maybe 4 runs, which I still consider to be in the game. It's not pretty, but it's serviceable. I mean, Senga is out there almost every start, and it's just behind the 8 ball from the jump with him, and it's terrible. Minaya. And he's another one. I think we were, like I said, I'm going to keep saying it. We're confident he can get through 3 or 4 solidly. But once you get into that 5th inning, that's when things start to get dicey. We can't have 3 guys who legitimately can't get through 5, get into the 6th inning, get through that 5th inning into the 6th inning. We can't have that. It's just going to tax the bullpen.
They keep throwing them out there.
They keep on throwing them out there. I mean, you kind of have to at this point because you don't have anyone else. Your only other option is Brandon Sproat. So you're going to have to live with 2 of those 3 guys. And, there is Tyler McGill, but given Mendoza's statements the other day when Tyler McGill got beat up a bit in AAA, it led me to believe that they're not really interested in McGill at this point. So it's
Well,
either what we got here or Sproat, because what Mendoza basically said, we'll see what happens. We're going to give him another start down in AAA, confirming that they're not impressed with what he's done. And I wonder if it could be an injury thing, given the fact that he went out there and rocked his first 2 starts in his rehab stint, and then kind of got shelled his last one. So
Who
we'll
is
see what
who is
happens.
impressed with Tyler McGill to begin with? Like, let's be honest. Like, this guy's not I don't think of Tyler McGill as a game-changing arm for the Mets moving forward. It's sad that we even have to consider him as one. That's where we're at with this rotation, and that's fine. Like, he's just another one that's just too inconsistent. So relying on a guy that's already inconsistent enough for a rotation that's inconsistent is just not, the math is not mathing there. And boy, I'll tell you what, over here, with Kodai Senga and these post-game comments that he's got, it just looks like he's defeated, man. It looks like he's defeated. He said he's never experienced something like this for this extended, this much of an extended period of time. And he's really trying to battle through. I understand that, but you're only hurting the team more than you're helping by, if there is something wrong with any part of your body that's lagging behind a little bit, I mean, you can't continue to go out there. You have to give it to the next guy, which would be Brandon Sproat. But I will also tell you what, to shift this focus a little bit, because let's be honest here, the pitching has been bad. That is the primary aspect of this team to blame. This defense needs to get their heads out of their asses too, because their fundamentals, their ability to stay in the game and make plays. You saw this Marlins team against the Mets. They made no mistakes defensively, or at least rarely. That's a young, energetic team. Those guys up the middle for them are fantastic. There's like nothing that you can hit past those guys, or very rarely at least. I don't see that same sort of urgency from this Mets defense. I don't. Pete Alonso has been horrible. Brandon Nimmo's been horrible. Brett Beatty makes a pretty bad error today as well.
That was on McNeil. McNeil had to get there and cover. He was late. He was trailing late. Beatty threw it to the back. That's on McNeil. But McNeil was bad this series. Several mistakes from him.
And also, just as it relates to the post game too. I mean, I know that they were already down 5-1 in the last inning of the game. And that's fine, because there's a lot of things that went wrong, from Senga to defense, lack of hitting to lead them to that point too. But, I just don't understand what the thought process is. I'm all for being aggressive at the plate, but like, you're trying to put runners on base, and Brett Beatty's out there swinging 3-1 for the fences like a 2-run homer is going to do anything for you. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't really make sense. And I just feel like situationally, on both sides of the ball, this team is just lacking a lot of awareness. They're lacking a lot of fundamentals, and they're simply lacking the smarts at this point. And this is a team that we're accustomed to, especially under David Stearns, even when he was in Milwaukee, to put together great defensive teams. And this has been pretty much one of the worst defensive Mets teams that we've seen in quite a bit. And that's shocking within itself. So a lot of things for this Mets team to get right, and a lot of things for them to fix. And the biggest thing is the starting pitching, but let's not pretend like there's other things about this team that don't need fixing either.
Sure, the defense has been really bad. It's got to be the lack of focus. Like, these are technically Gold Glovers that are making these silly errors. Lindor has a lot of errors this year. McNeil was late to get into the bag. Brett Beatty kind of threw a lollipop over there. Everybody really, like, not thrown to a certain bag. Just not being positioned. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm tongue-tied here. Positioning yourself to put yourself in a good defensive position is another thing. It's a lack of focus. Like, did they really just assume that they were just going to show up to Citi Field and beat the Marlins? Like, didn't it feel like that in this series? That they just felt like they were going to show up because, they beat the mighty Phillies and they swept them. Like, that momentum's gone. Like, how can you not go into the Marlins series knowing that you could have a crazy good homestand and you just squandered it? And man, 4-3 homestand, right? Yeah, 4-3 homestand. I still can't do math on this Sunday, Chris. But 4-3 homestand, I mean, that's a joke, especially when you won the first 3. I mean, man, it's the lack of focus. I mean, 25 games to go. When are you going to start to focus? We talk about this all the time. When are these guys going to actually show up and continue to show up? I don't know, man. I'm completely frustrated right now. I have no confidence in this team. We've seen crazy things before where, things happen. You just got to get hot at the right time. But, they get hot for 2 days and then they go cold for a week. It's been the trend over the last, 3.5 months. This team has not been good. This has been under 500 teams since June. And there's no signs of it picking up, and it's got to be demoralizing. And Kodai Senga should feel down on himself and look like he's demoralized. I mean, you suck. I mean, you never had that in your career. Yeah, well, you're facing major leaguers now. You're not, I know a lot of Japanese players are really good, but I mean, you come here to play with the best. They pick up on your lack of, executing pitches. They're not swinging at that ghost fork enough, and those fastballs. And he was using his fastball, as Chris said, more, and it was nice to see. We did bring that up in the pregame, but it's a straight fastball. I don't care if he throws a 95 and he threw a 98 today. Doesn't matter. When they don't care about your ghost fork pitch, they're waiting for that fastball. And again, this was the worst case scenario, worst case team for Kodai Senga to face, because this team does not strike out. This team puts the bat on the ball. And Kodai Senga, the only time he comes in the zone is with that fastball. And they were waiting for that pitch. And they did. He gave up all the 5 runs.
You know what? What I'll say though, Rob, is the thing that I continue to just look at with this Buehler. I can't get off this Buehler signing because I just they're basically signing him to see if he has anything in September, and they're going to make a decision on him whether he's going to be a part of their playoff roster. And it's just why can't a team like the Mets do that? What's the harm in that? I know he's pitching to a 5.4 ERA, right? I get that. But you could find lightning in the bottle there for relatively cheap. Now, I don't think the contract terms have, came out just yet. But, you're already in September. What's
Question.
I don't know. That infuriates me.
Question for you guys: if it was between Sproat or Buehler, who are you going with?
Buehler.
It depends. It depends on that playoff eligibility. I don't think we still have.
If Sproat comes up right now, Sproat's both are playoff eligible.
It's like both. Why can't you have both? Why is Stanek on this team?
Agree.
I suppose.
Why is you have a couple of non-impactful arms in this bullpen?
Buehler doesn't move me. I mean, Stanek was just as good as Buehler, if not better, during the playoffs for the Mets and the Astros. So I think getting hung up on the Buehler move is not really something that as Mets fans should be worried about, because I mean, look, he could turn around and be amazing for the Phillies, but if he goes out, and let's say in this next series, he goes out and blows a game or two for them in this upcoming series, we're going to be loving the fact that we didn't sign him. So time will tell, but he has been horrible, not bad, horrible, worse than Kodai Senga, someone that we hate right now.
But you could have both. But you could have both of those guys on your roster. You can have both of those guys on your roster hypothetically, because you at that point you wouldn't need to bring McGill up. Am I wrong?
No, but there's other people that I think I'd rather give a shot to. People that are younger that aren't off of 2 Tommy John surgeries in their career. Clearly, someone who has gotten worse since coming back from the Tommy Johns. This is someone that is not a mover for me. I could be dead wrong, but for me, this is someone that's been worse than a lot that we already have here. And we have some pieces that we're pretty unhappy with. This is someone that's pitched worse than Ryan Stanek, pitched worse than Kodai Senga. I have zero faith in Walker Buehler being a good pitcher.
Well, Zach, did you like the Stanek move last year?
The Stanek move? Yeah, I actually did. I thought it was good.
He had a 5 ERA in Houston.
He had a 5 ERA in Houston, but it was for a playoff pitcher. I think it was like a 4.7 or something in Seattle. But he was a good playoff pitcher, and I had faith in the big fastball. But the Buehler, there's so much more there, and it has to do with the fact that he is off of tons of arm injuries.
Sure.
I think his arm is just
Totally agree with you. But you know what? Senga has an elbow oblique. Minaya has an elbow oblique. Who the hell knows what's wrong with Senga, right? We're throwing guys out there that weren't pitching for, Minaya for 3 months, Montas for 3 months that wasn't pitching. So it's like I'd rather take a chance with an established guy where maybe a little bit of a burst of energy can actually get him going again. I think the Red Sox kind of, and when Buehler wasn't good, the Red Sox weren't good, and so again, I'm not giving Buehler any credit here. He hasn't been good this year, but there's many guys that we see that have not been good with their original team. They get moved to another team or they get signed by another team from waivers or whatever, and they pitch better or they hit better. And again, I'm not saying that Buehler's going to win us a World Series or anything like that if you get him. Like, by no means I'm saying that. It's just the fact that why not? Like, Stanek is not good. Stanek does mop-up duty. At least with Walker Buehler, you can throw him in there as a starter or a reliever. Who cares? The fact is, if he's just as bad as one of those guys, you can release him in 2 weeks if you want to. And you're not releasing Senga. You're not releasing Manai. You're not releasing any of these guys. So at the very least, I would rather have a guy who's better in the postseason than anybody we have in our rotation and probably our bullpen. Let's be honest about that. Like, that's how good he was. And again, even with all the injuries he had coming back from last year, and he still pitched outstanding, and he was on the mound when they won the World Series with the Dodgers last year. That means something to me. I'll take that guy every single time. I don't care how he's pitching right now. I still rather just get that guy. And I agree with Chris and Zach. We can agree to disagree here, but I truly agree that he hasn't been good. But I'd rather have an option, and you give yourself an option because again, if Sproul comes up here and doesn't pitch well, where do you think he's going? He's going right back down. Correct, right? But, so at least there's options here. And I don't think Stearns is giving us enough options. I said it before this year. I don't think Stearns is going to get Walker Buehler. You know why? Because he don't do that type of job. He don't do that type of work. He just doesn't. Stearns doesn't do that. He's more concerned about options in 2026 and, how can he fix everybody else in this organization by, manipulating everybody and throwing his stupid propaganda speeches out there. And he doesn't do what he's supposed to do because this is another season where this team had a ton of expectations and you half-assed another deadline. And it starts with that because we shouldn't be talking about Walker Buehler, to be honest.
But we shouldn't be. The bottom line is that Buehler has been objectively garbage, like Zach is saying, 100%. But what I will say is that if you, like Zach, you just said that Mendoza, what it seems like he was saying about McGill, and maybe not being ready to call him up. You could have Brandon Sproul and Buehler here, take the flyer on Buehler, see how he does in September, if he can carry any momentum over to the playoffs. And if not, then that's McGill's spot because McGill's still going to be postseason eligible no matter what. He has enough time under his belt. So that's where I'm like, it's like Ricardo is saying in the chat, it's more of a flyer than an actual commitment to Buehler. And I think that's what the Phillies are doing. They're just doing just that. It's basically a low risk, high reward scenario. We talk about these types of moves for the Mets all the time. Low risk, high reward. That's David Stearns, right up David Stearns' alley. You had another opportunity to do that. Didn't do it. Same thing with Jose Quintana, who's pitching to a 3.69 ERA at the beginning of the season. I heard he was old, right? I didn't even like Jose Quintana last year. I didn't like him. I wanted him gone, right? Until he started to heat up in September at the right time and was really good for the Mets outside of that Dodgers series. Like, I didn't even want him. But when you had the injury news that the Mets had in the rotation in the offseason, spring training, etc., when he's still a free agent out there, right? You go and make that move. That's another arm that we could be talking about right now being impactful for the Mets. So, coulda, shoulda, woulda. And that's basically what we're saying here. Walker Buehler is now coulda, shoulda, woulda. It's Brandon Sprout or bust now. And that's just a lot of when you talk about a president of baseball operations and David Stearns that basically said that he didn't want to put these kids in a tough spot a couple months ago. That's why they weren't there at that point. Guess what? You're putting them in a tough spot to the highest degree. And that's just goes against what he just said a couple of months ago, why those guys weren't up there at that point. So it's just, it's frustrating, boys.
It's tough, but the players kind of put that on Stearns. You're gonna get at Stearns for not making certain moves and get on him for making certain moves like the Montas signing. But I think we all agreed in the offseason that Minaya was a good signing. We all wanted Sean Minaya back here. You can't envision him. I can cool it there. I know you were happy about it.
I didn't. Chris, I did not.
You didn't.
I was more on board with Minaya, but the thing is, I don't have a problem with Minaya too because I think he's going to be a contributor for this team moving forward. I like what I've seen out of Minaya.
But you can't factor in the oblique. That's not on Stearns. Him injuring his oblique and being out half the year and then having to pitch through loose bodies, that's not on David Stearns. That just is what it is. Kodai Senga is not a Stearns guy. What was Stearns going to do? He has to throw him out there. That's kind of what he was given, what he was handed. That's a mess he had to clean up, and Senga is just kind of falling flat on his face. So, and while I do agree, like obviously it's 2020 hindsight with the kids, but we got to remember both McLean and Tong started at AA. If we rushed them up and they just fell flat on their face, we would be in a situation right now where they might not be able to come back up for the rest of the year because they were so bad. We need to push that back to next year. And now we're talking about we might not make the last wild card spot. It could be the fact that he gave them enough time that they are this good because they got that taste of AAA and got to refine themselves. So I think harping on the fact that they weren't up sooner is kind of a lost point because I think we just don't know what they were. We know what they are now because they're up here, but these are two kids that one is in his first full season of pitching. The other one is 22 years old and just got up to AA this season. Obviously, players have been called up from AA or had been fast tracked where they've come up in a season, but these were both work in processes. They were projects, and they just kind of everything went right for them this year, and they were able to make that jump to the major leagues, and they are going to be contributors. And it's tough to put them in a position like that, but we've kind of had no other options.
Yeah, but still, if you would have still brought them up early, you would have a better idea of what you could have done prior to the deadline. Like, even if they weren't ready, you could have had an idea to do that. But that's the thing, is the indecisiveness of not planning for this. Stearns did not plan for this. Like, let's be honest about that, right? He thought Montez was going to be fine. He thought Holmes was going to be fine. He thought Minaya would look like an ace again. And I did predict that Minaya was going to be injured. And
you did? Okay.
We just talked about that earlier in the season. I talked about it. Like, the new mechanics, always a problem for a pitcher. They always get hurt. And again, I wanted Minaya back, but I wanted Minaya plus somebody better.
No.
As well. I did. I thought Minaya was a fine signing, but not calling him as what he is. It's like, oh, great, Minaya's our ace. Why? Because he pitched well for 3 months in the first time in like 6 years when he's actually been a top rotation guy. It didn't excite me. So, but again, do I think Minaya is still going to be a contributor factor here? Yes. I think you can put him in the bullpen and he can throw you 2 good innings. And again, you're going to have to shorten these games. Not during the season. Now, if we do make the playoffs, and we all think we are, you got to shorten the games very much in the postseason, which most people do. So that should help the Mets because we're so used to going 4 innings. We should know how to do it better than anybody else in the postseason. But it is frustrating. But I don't know. I mean, it's 5:30 almost, and hopefully the moves come down that we see Sproat and Ronnie Mauricio goes down. I think they're going to bring Acuna up.
I forgot he's even on this team. Holy shit. I'm not even kidding. Exactly. I forgot he's on this team. That's crazy.
I love the development.
Oh, my God. I mean, dude, I don't think any of us thought that was going to happen. Him just kind of falling flat in his face like,
yeah, that's unfortunate.
Horrid. But, yeah, I could see Acuna making it up with the 28th man, Sproat. I don't think Sproat gets the call for the 28th man. I think he gets called up tonight and someone else gets an option to DFA. I wonder if someone like Dylan Ross in AAA, who's kind of had himself a really nice season, could get that call as an extra bullpen arm. So I wonder what they do on that front because they need to figure something out. They need to figure out how to just get an extra arm in here to have quicker hooks on guys like Kodai Senga, Clay Holmes, and Sean Minaya. More so Kodai Senga if he does stick in the rotation past today.
We got Minaya tomorrow. Yay.
I like Minaya. He's going to be good for 3-4 innings. It just matters what happens after.
I agree. I agree with that. I mean,
I think his last start he got through 5 pretty well.
He looked decent the last go around. If I'm not mistaken, he had 8 strikeouts. He couldn't provide the Mets length, and that's just been the issue. Like the Mets since June 13th, somewhere around the first or second week of June. They just tossed up the graphic today on the game. They have the least amount of innings from a starting rotation and any starting rotation all of baseball, and they have the second most bullpen innings. It's not a recipe for success. You can't do that. I mean, you really can't do that. So, yeah, wow, I don't know. We'll see if there's any reports tonight, but it doesn't inspire the most confidence. I think we've gotten into a lot of, hypothetical situations that could have happened, in the deadline or the off season, whatever. But the bottom line is that whoever's in this organization, they're not going to turn anywhere else outside the organization, or else they would have made a real play for Walker Buehler instead of him going to the Phillies. What they got is what they're going to work with, and let's see if it works out. I mean, I don't know why. I just have this feeling that something has to turn, and I'm just getting sick of having that hopeful feeling without any sort of production behind it. But Senga, I talk about not trusting Clay Holmes in the playoff game. I trust him more than Senga, and that's absolutely pitiful for that to even be a thing at this point. And
As a starter, you're saying, or just in general?
a starter.
If
Well,
you
in
move
general,
Holmes to
because
the
I think
pen, would you trust
Clay
him more?
Holmes.
Yeah, if you move Holmes to the pen, would you trust him even
Oh
more?
yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
like a 2 or
Because
3
I feel
inning
like
guy.
I feel like with Holmes too, it's like there's a certain point that he just runs out of steam as well. There have been a handful of occasions with Holmes this season where the first inning is a little bit lackluster, but he's able to limit the damage. So I'd like to see him get out to games and a better start more consistently. But I think the majority of his problems come in like the fourth or fifth inning as well, and he just hits that wall, and that's fine. But I just feel like you got to have a quick hook if you're the Mets front office. Yeah, you can't. You brought him in here to be a starting pitcher, but he's not giving you the innings that a regular starter would. He's probably going to be a starter next season, if I had to imagine. Moving him to the pen or moving Manaea to the pen is not a detrimental move to make them realize that, oh, this is going to be a long-term move. If I had to guess, I think both of those guys are going to be in the Mets rotation starting in 2026. But the fact of the matter is that the 2025 New York Mets need one of those guys in the bullpen. And it just seems like they're not willing to do that, or they haven't been willing to do that up until this point, because I would have already made one of those moves to begin with. So, that's an interesting question. I want to pose that to you both. If the Mets are considering one of these rotation arms, either Manaea or Holmes at this point in the bullpen, if any of them, who would you rather see go to the bullpen versus stay in the rotation?
Show him Manaea. Not even a question.
To the pen?
Yeah, to the pen. It gives you a third lefty. It does Holmes just does less for me there, because I can just do exactly what you can just shorten Holmes, act him, treat him as a reliever that's an opener, and you could maybe even pitch him an extra. I wonder if you could pitch him an extra start a week with that, get him in there, maybe a little bit more consistently, and just have Shohei Manaea piggyback and go 3 innings, 3-3 or 4-3, 4-4, and you can just kind of use that to lighten the load on your bullpen, and then insert Brandon Sproat as a starter, and I guess from there you just got to figure out what to do with Kodai Senga.
The better question
Send him
is,
back
and I know
home,
that
maybe.
the better question is here before you go, Rob, and I want to just insert this, is that we're talking about starting pitching problems, and the Mets also have another problem in the bullpen. It's the 8th inning guy. And if you're going to limit Sean Manaea, first of all, I don't know if Sean Manaea is going to be like a candidate to be an 8th inning guy if he goes into the bullpen, but Clay Holmes has done that before. So that's why maybe I would lean a little bit more to a guy like Clay Holmes, because if Ryan Helsley also doesn't figure it out, that's just another pitching problem that you have to figure out and try to see who's going to backfill that spot. Because with the way things are going right now with the starting pitching, the last thing that this Mets team needs right now is Ryan Helsley to be a problem, and he also is a problem. So, I mean, at this point, who's the 8th inning guy? Like right now, who would you designate that with the guys that are in the rotation? Rayleigh, maybe.
No.
Davinsky or Waddell, they pitch better than all of them.
And they're both going to be in the minor leagues starting tomorrow.
I mean,
I don't know, guys.
Depends where you have Sean Manaea go. I could honestly see him getting the 8th inning. That doesn't mean he's the 8th inning guy. Say, let's just example, Holmes goes 4. You go Rayleigh, you go Rogers, you just go one of them, and then you have Manaea go 2 or 3. That's your, he gets you through the 8th inning, gets you to Diaz. I have faith in Manaea through the first, one go through the order. It's when you get to that second and maybe even the third go around the order. So I don't think having a dedicated eighth inning guy necessarily affects it, because I think Tyler Rogers has been solid. Really could fit in that role. Gregory Soto, I view him more as a middle type lefty, whereas he can pitch in the middle innings. I don't necessarily trust him as much later in games, but he's been good. He's been good nonetheless outside of these last two appearances. So I don't know. It's tough, but I think I believe Minaya.
You know what they should do? Everybody except for Sproat, Tong, and McLean stay in the rotation. Everybody else to the bullpen. DFA everybody who sucks. I wish I was joking. But I mean, you got to figure out something, because again, you can't get the Diaz, and Diaz pitches like once a week now because we either have a big lead or we're getting blown out. We don't pitch Diaz. He's got to come into a game that's a blowout and pitch 30 pitches, and then he won't be available the next day, because you have to pitch him, because when he comes into a close game or a save situation and he hasn't pitched in a week, he has no control. So we can't get the Diaz, which is a problem because the Mets score too many runs in a game, which is fine, or they're getting blown out in a game where there's no hope of bringing in Edwin Diaz. Honestly, I don't like to have all these questions start in September. Again, it's going to be the downfall of this team. I'm going to watch every game because I'm an idiot. I'm going to root for this team because I'm an idiot. And I'm not talking about anybody else, but I'm the idiot. I'm going to keep on watching, and we're going to keep on doing shows, and we're going to keep on going crazy for this team. I just feel like, and I felt like this all season, I always felt like the pitching, regardless of these kids or not, I'm not putting the blame on them, even if they don't pitch well. I'm not. I just feel like the underwhelming part of this team was always going to be the starting rotation. And now it's coming to a head because our bullpen has pitched only 38 innings less than our starting pitching. That has been the problem. That's why you got guys hurt. That's why you got guys overused. That's why you had to get 97 guys at the deadline instead of a starter and probably another bat, a better center fielder. You had to worry about bullpen because everybody was a disaster, because everybody had more innings than anybody predicted. So, you get an overused bullpen, you're going to have problems like this. And when you have one of the best closers in baseball, when your bullpen sucks below him, you can't get to him. So it's pointless having a great closer that you can't use in great situations, in the perfect situation, which is closing out games. I don't know. They need to figure it out very soon when it comes to the bullpen, because you can't figure this out at the end of September. Let's say you do find yourself and sneak into the playoffs. You can't say, hey, Minaya, September 30th, here you go. We're in the playoffs. Here, go into the bullpen. Let's see what happens. You got to do that early. So you got to make a decision here. It's either going to be Senga, which I don't think anybody wants in the bullpen, but make a decision. Senga or Minaya, go to the bullpen. Now, I think they'll wait one day because Minaya's pitching tomorrow, and maybe he looks good, and then we're like, okay, maybe we'll settle the storm a little bit. But if Minaya doesn't pitch well, Minaya's got to go to his bullpen before his next start. And you throw in Sprout or whoever you want to bring up in this rotation and go with that, because you need somebody. Helsley sucks. Rogers is good, but he gives up too many soft hits. He doesn't strike out enough guys, and that's an issue. He's getting weak contact, but they're falling and finding a hole, or finding grass. Soto hasn't been the same since his last couple of outings. And Rayleigh has been good, but I think Rayleigh is kind of that Swiss Army knife where you can pitch him in the 5th, 7th, 9th, 8th. It doesn't matter. But he only got one arm. So it's I don't really know, guys. I think it's a major problem. And being 11-18 in August, and this offense has been one of the best in baseball in that month, it's all about the pitching. And there's way too many question marks and way too many problems. I think the fix over the next 25 games. I truly believe there's too many problems. It's not like you have a only.
Well, as David's saying in the chat here, unfortunately, Rob, it's only going to get tougher for you because your Cowboys are looking pretty abysmal to start off the NFL season.
Just gotta throw away hey, I gotta throw my Micah Parsons jersey, apparently. So.
You gotta sell that or something. I don't know.
Sell it quick on eBay.
But hey,
Or just wait till someone else gets wears number 11 and then get it de-stitched and restitched with the new player.
America's team. Yes.
What I was gonna say here is this quote from John Harper, and this is the really last thing that I have to say about what transpired today for the Mets is that John Harper also was kind of like assessing what Carlos Mendoza had to say in the post game, and it basically he said it sounds like Mendoza would like to see Brandon Sproat up here to take the place of Senga in the next go around in the rotation, but that just leaves me to like think how involved is Mendoza really in this whole decision-making process? Like, whether it's true or not, it just kind of feels. I'm not saying that there is, but I'm saying it feels like there could be a little bit of a disconnect, especially in terms of the timing between Stearns and Mendoza. I hope that's not the case. I hope I'm wrong. It's obviously an assumption, but it just is Mendoza putting pressure on Stearns to make the decision if David Stearns is not leaning that way would be my statement or question, I should say, because it's not definitive. So
We
I
talked
don't
about
know.
that.
That's all I got.
We talked about the like I said, there might be a disconnect between disagreements between
Mendoza and
Stearns
Stearns.
and Mendoza. Yeah, I think so. Like I think
Why do you
Mendoza
think that?
pissed off, and you know what? If Mendoza has the same power as Aaron Boone, probably not.
I disagree because Mendoza has come out a few times and put a lot of blame on the let's go. Put a lot of blame on the starters. He's come out and publicly and in as many words kind of given them shit about how they performed. And soon after, Stearns has made two moves to get both Nolan McLean and Jonah Tong up here. Whether that's because Mendoza was calling for it, or maybe they both realized that there's something needed to be fixed, and those two guys were the answer. So I think Mendoza does have a lot to say. I don't think there's much that they're working against each other personally. I mean, I haven't gotten that vibe at all. And I mean, Stearns has come out and given Mendy his vote of confidence. So I think that they're working in tandem, and I got to think we will see Sproat by the end of tonight. I think Sproat will be a New York Met, or not. He is a New York Met. Will be on the Major League roster and on the 40-man roster by 11:59 tonight. And I do think maybe another move is made. I don't know of Brandon Waddell or Jose Castillo. Either of them have options. Maybe you see one of them option for another bullpen arm just to get another guy that's available for the postseason, and then recall them maybe later in September, just so you have a fresher arm up here, and then the increased options come postseason baseball for that pitching staff in the starting rotation bullpen. That's my thoughts, anyways.
Oh yeah. Boy, man. Imagine if Stearns doesn't bring up Sproat. Oh my god.
I can't see him not.
Like, what do we talk about then? Like I McGill. Like, I mean, Jesus, man, I hope so. Like, I really don't want to be having a pregame tomorrow, and the game's at 1 o'clock because of Labor Day. Like, I don't want to have a pregame early in the morning, like 11:30, 11 o'clock, whenever it is. And we're talking about Brandon Sproat not being on this team before 11:59 tonight or 11:59 tonight. Like, I mean, that deserves Stearns to be fired. Like, I know he won't be, but that's malpractice. Like, I already think Stearns has done a terrible job this year, from offseason to trade deadline. I mean, I'm already pissed off. Like, I'm so sick of talking about David Stearns. David Stearns shouldn't be a conversation, and we're talking about him way too much throughout this season. But I mean, I think Sproat's going to be up here, but Stearns likes his way. He does it. He makes his plan. He leaves his philosophy. He doesn't pivot. And I think it hurts the Mets. And I think it hurt the Brewers when he was a GM of the Brewers. I think that, I know he didn't have a lot of money to work with, but I always felt like that team always fell short for whatever reason. And Stearns was a big part of that. They made the postseason almost every year he was running that team. And they always came up short. And it seemed like it was pitching at times or it was hitting at times. And they never went out there to get that guy that they needed. And it probably was money reasons. But, I mean, I'm not going to give Stearns the benefit of the doubt because he's doing the exact same thing with the Mets in this deadline and in these last two deadlines where he kind of half-assed it once again. But Get
I'll
it, sorry.
say this with Stearns. His team went up against his current team went up against his former team that he built. All players that he was responsible in acquiring and having them be on the team and developing. And we beat them last year in the wild card. So with guys that he signed and a team that he he half built, but also the team that he put together for that last season. So I am a big Stearns believer. So I'm not going to stand here and agree with you that he deserves to be fired or that I think he's not the answer. But I will say this: I think that he has made a bunch of mistakes this year. I think Montas, is the biggest one of them all. I will say this though: in the off season, he did make a lot of good moves in not signing some starting pitchers, some that have obviously gotten hurt and have failed this year. Some of the bigger names. So he has done some good things, but he's also made some mistakes this year in building this team. Headlined by Frankie Montas. So we'll see what happens going forward. I think at this point in time, there's not enough, or there's too much of thinking forward to the future. He needs to think about what's going on right now for this team and how he can make this team better with what he has to make the postseason and then make a deep run and hopefully win it all.
Let's hope so, because it'll be year number 40 of not winning the championship. That's always fun to talk about as well. None of us were born, so that's always fun as well. But Chris, any final thoughts before we head out? Starting this 10-game road trip start in September.
No, I mean, we'll get the answers on the roster tonight. Who we'll have is who we're going to have going forward, and we'll learn to live it, learn it, love it as such. I think that there definitely, there's some philosophy adjustments that I think David Stearns, with the utilization of Cohen's wallet, could maybe, I guess, implement. I'm not talking about drastic. I'm not talking about reckless spending on guys just for the sake of getting the names, but I'm talking about maybe being a little bit more in the market for more impactful pitching, especially as you build the rotation. It's going to be interesting, especially with some more of the young guys coming up. We're not even talking about a guy like Jack Wenninger who could be competing, and we talked about this in a couple of streams ago for a 2026 spot. But it's going to be the pieces and the core of the rotation are going to be present within the next couple of seasons. That doesn't have anything to do with 2025. I understand that. I understand that upsets some people, but there's going to have to be decisions made on guys like Clay Holmes, Sean Manaea on these 3-year contracts of where do they fit in alongside, especially with Senga coming back next year too. Where does this rotation fit in outside of the young guys? So that's really all I have. And, we'll see you all. This is frustrating. I mean, we don't want to come up here and rant. It might be entertaining, but it gets old after a while, right? Especially when we have to do it consistently after losses like this. So hopefully the Mets shut us up. And that's what we want. Just shut us up. Play good baseball, win, because we'd much rather be on here, talking about wins than losses, and that's for damn sure. So that's all I got.
Chris, a road trip. What would you be happy with coming back out of this road trip record wise? Out of the 10 games.
10 games. You said it's Tigers, Reds. Who's after Reds?
Phillies.
Twins and Phillies.
Reds, Phillies, Tigers.
Phillies.
Oh, okay. Those are 3. Oh man. That was a tough stretch, honestly. I think they got to go. What I'll be happy with 6-4 at this rate, but I think 7-3 is a little bit more in order. That's my personal opinion.
Okay. Zach, final thoughts and 10-game road trip record.
Final thoughts. Fucking call up Brandon Stroh, please. Send down Brandon Wandell. He's not pitching for a few days. Let's just get that done. There's no reason to drag our feet there. Get him up here. Let's. We saw what happened when McLean came up. We saw what happened when Tom came up. They kind of lit some fires, and I don't know what's happened since then. But let's really light a fire under these guys' asses because it's needed, And I think Mendoza's comments show he's tired of the shit these guys are doing. And I know a lot of people put a lot of this on Mendoza, but he's got to be just as tired as we are, because I saw the reaction of him walking out of that dugout to take the ball from Senga. He didn't look him in the eye. He was pissed. And the comments after today's game, he sounded dejected. Like, what the hell is this guy doing that we're paying all this money to? He's supposed to be top pitcher. What is he doing? So get him out of the rotation, or get him right. Get Brandon Sproat up here. And what I want for a road trip, I'm actually kind of weird. I do 5-5, but it all depends. I'm more concerned about what we do against the Reds and the Phillies. I could care less what we do against the Tigers. If we end 5-5, say we go 3-1 against the Phillies, 2-2 at worst, and then 2-1 against the Reds, I'm very comfortable with how we end up, as long as we're at least playing going 500 over this road trip.
All right. Well, 6-4, 5-5 is, again, I think they need to go 6-4 at least. Again, any way how you do it, I don't think it really matters. Again, it always looks better when you end a road trip or any type of homestand a road trip, and it ends pretty well. We feel a little bit better. But, the Tigers are going to be tough. They're playing for something still. We know about the Reds right behind us with 4 games, and who knows how close they'll be by the time we face them at the end of the week. That's another problem within itself. And I can tell you right now, who's going to be up for those games? Because it ain't going to be the Mets, because they never play teams that are subpar to them well.
We do play well in Cincinnati, though. I think we have
we
have a really good record there.
And Pete Alonso is a juggernaut in that ballpark as well, so that's a good sign. But again, the Mets find ways to embarrass themselves in these situations, man.
They're frustrating. They're going to go and win 2 of 3 from the Tigers. They're going to get swept by the Reds, and then they're going to go sweep the Phillies in Philadelphia. It's going to be something like that. We're going to leave this road trip scratching our heads like, what the hell just happened?
And just like that, we got 10 games to go.
15 after that, right?
15, yeah. All right, guys. So, unfortunately, the Mets lose 5-1, lost 3 out of 4 against the Marlins after sweeping the Phillies the first 3 of the homestand. But 25 games to go. We still got a 4-game lead in the wild card, so I guess that's some positivity for everybody that wanted a little bit of positivity joining the stream on any of the channels and on X. With that said, guys, thank you for tuning in to the Mets post-game show right here on the channels and on X. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Zach, and myself, and everybody in the chat hanging out with us on this Sunday. Have a good night, guys. Let's go Mets, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to